Attend! Cha! Shoulder! Out! For the right! Quick! March!
From these young men and women will come the leaders of our defence forces in 2020. They'll be protecting Australia in a world where the rules have all changed, in a Pacific region where Japan will be the major military power. And population pressures, not only on our northern neighbours, but around the globe, will ensure that our vast tracts of underutilised land will become a prized target. Australia has just over 68,000 defence personnel. They spend their days preparing for the uncertain arrival of battle. In the desperately overpopulated world of the 21st century, it may be that the first action any of them see will be foreign civilians landing on our northern shores.
One! Go!
As we move towards 2020, we are going to have huge populations of people who are going to be starving and very, very poor. They will be making huge demands on their local environment. The two obvious things will happen, or could happen. One is that some will just give up the ghost and die. Others will become very angry and aggressive and move out of their environment in an attempt to try and meet their need, their immediate need, which is to be fed.
Already, refugee boat people have made it to Australian soil. The prediction is for a wave of them, forced to flee the intolerable conditions of their homeland for a country they believe must offer them a better existence.
They will come in a crowded world, either because they just arrive as refugees and we have not the will or the capacity to reject them. They will come because we are defeated in conflict and that there is not the respect and capacity for this country to preserve its own identity as it presently wishes. Or they might come because we are not held in high regard in the international forums and they will just allocate our space to others.
Right, let's now look at the second option open to ICA Company when he assaults this enemy platoon position here.
Australia's options in the event of a mass landing of boat people would not be as clear as these.
That would be a very difficult problem for us. And as I say, I think the only way then to counter it is to take action against that country directly, or at least say to them, any more of this and we will have to take military measures against you because you are invading our country, no matter what sort of a face you try and put on it.
It becomes a war situation.
It does.
Defence analysts believe strategic interest in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Basin regions is escalating. While it must be pointed out that no one country is eyeing Australia, the concerns about our defence capabilities are growing.
What gets me is that people say it would take 10 years for a threat to Australia to develop. And I think that is absolute nonsense. Indonesia, for instance, has the capability of putting at least 10,000 troops on Australian soil within 48 hours.
So there's a potential military threat to our north that we really couldn't handle.
That's right. We're not in a position to handle now because we've got no surveillance and we don't know what's happening in the north.
We do have surveillance of a sort.
Of a sort, we have a civil coastal surveillance that flies at present, from 1 hour after daylight and it finishes by contract 1 hour before dark. Really, if anyone were going to invade, they would hardly be worried by that. So really, air surveillance at present, anyone can fly into the north of Australia any night. They could say they're coming, and there's nothing we could do about it.
138 and takeoff. Rotation.
By 2020, Australia will be so much closer to the rest of the world.
We are working on supersonic aircraft, and the time scale that you're talking about, perhaps those will be here, in which case we'll be traveling 3 times as fast and London will be 3 times as close in time.
So say from Sydney to LA, we'd be looking at a journey time of what?
5.5 hours.
And how many passengers?
350. The economics are such to get that airplane making money, we have to have the payload there as well.
release 4 pins that hold the CINCOM into the payload bay. And then here you can see the...
By 2020, we'll have a new frontier.
...on the center switch panel, which release the spec
A series of facilities will achieve the long-held notions of permanent life millions of miles away from the surface of this planet. Australia has the geographic prerequisites to be part of the world's concerted push towards space colonisation. And our involvement could begin as soon as 1995.
The IMS checkout went super, and TJ is en route to do the EIS checkout.
In 2020, Cape York International Spaceport would be a transportation hub for space travel. And by that I mean it would be a centre, just as an airport is today, for the movement of people and materials into space.
T-minus 5:45, and Gene Cernan made that final guidance alignment. That's the last action taken by the crew.
Somewhere in the 88,000 square kilometres that make up the rugged northernmost point of Australia is the best location on Earth to put an international spaceport. The position is just 12 degrees south of the equator. A phenomenon called the slingshot effect makes it considerably more attractive than current sites in the US, the Soviet Union and Japan. It will be in direct competition with the European Space Agency's location almost on the equator in French Guiana, but Australia offers considerably less logistic problems. The extra speed gained at the Cape York latitude would allow bigger payloads to be carried using the same amount of thrust and fuel. Compared to a Soviet location, an Australian launch can provide 1/3 more payload free.
Started, all engines are started. We have ignition, 2, 1, 0. We have a liftoff. We have a liftoff, and it's lighting up the area.
In a business where there's increasing scrutiny on budgets that come in billions, that's a very attractive discount.
But there are considerable questions to be answered. Within the boundaries are a host of Aboriginal sacred sites, and much of the Cape York Peninsula is virgin wilderness, unchanged for millions of years. It's yet another example of the drive for progress being confronted by demands to preserve the environment. It's a recurring theme in any discussion on the future of Australia.
We could be launching 15 to 20 rockets a year, and in today's money, that's worth $2 billion a year of exports for Australia.
So how important is it to the future of Australia?
It's our last chance to get into space in a big way. There are only going to be 3 or 4 space launching facilities in the world which are not dedicated to military applications. And if Australia doesn't take the chance that it's got now, we won't get another one. This is it. We either take it or we fluff it.
With it would go the dreams and aspirations of the thinning ranks of our science students. And yet, the key to a rejuvenated Australia is education.
We're in for a very interesting debate this morning.
Science may be unfashionable, but in an attempt to defeat that trend, every year 150 of our top science students are brought together for this summer school.
Have you noticed how populated Australia's cities are?
For these leaders of tomorrow's technology, a learning experience, a chance to further their interest, and this year, a forum on our future.
We're not only thinking about our future, we've already started planning it.
I think what Australia is going to look like in the year 2020 will depend a lot on how we treat it now.
There will be hopefully more scientists in Australia, and hopefully our economy will be much better than it is today.
I've heard a lot of the catchphrase, we're the youth of tomorrow, we're the people of tomorrow, we're Australia's future. And I don't believe that's strictly true, because Australia's future is today, and this is where Australia's future begins. We're not something that's going to be. We're happening now.
Next, Australia's most valuable natural resource.
That's what a first world economy is all about. Brain power into wealth.
and the prospect of a woman in charge.
I think the chances of a woman becoming Prime Minister of this country are better than they've ever been.